Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1022, 1022, Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. Of course, it is Wednesday, so of course that's the day that I take out the trash and have some chicken. Every Wednesday, I take out the trash and I have chicken. Now, with that in mind, let's go ahead and move on to the important news of the day. Well, the newest story up on SaraACarter.com is definitely worth a read. I recommend you go over and take a look. Basically, in this story, I'll just cover the main points. She points out in the story that her sources are telling her that John Durham has requested a copious amount of documents from the Office of Net Assessment, which of course is an office within the Pentagon, which is the office where Stefan Halper came from, or at least it was the Office of Net Assessment that had paid him over $1 million to conduct some sort of research. Now, obviously, they've already figured out that he really didn't do a whole lot of research. Many of the research papers he was supposed to write were never written. Many of the other ones he subbed out to some, college kids, I guess, and they did Google searches and went to the Wikipedia pages and put together some stuff, and he turned that in as research, and it was pretty much rejected as not really being even serious. So obviously he didn't use the $1 million to do the reports. Question is, what did he use the $1 million for? What was he actually being paid for? That's what John Durham wants to know. He also wants to know exactly how that money was budgeted to Halper, and in fact what he actually did get paid for. And he wants to know, obviously, if Halper received any other money from any other sources. And that is why he has requested a trove of documents from the Office of Net Assessment. She also says that he is looking very closely at the time period of January through May of 2017. Just exactly what Attorney General Barr was talking about with Martha McCollum in their most recent interview. And of course we know that he's already done a very deep dive into the period prior to July 31st, 2016. So, it's funny, we've been on this story for a very long time now. And of course we've identified the FBI, the DOJ, the State Department, the CIA, all these agencies being involved. But I knew we would eventually get around to the military-industrial complex. You just knew that the MIC had their hands in this pie as well. And that's exactly what's going on here with the Office of Net Assessment, which is where Halper was. See, a lot of times, people who work for the CIA need cover. And so the CIA likes to bury money from their budgets into other agencies of the government, and they like to provide cover to their CIA officers or assets by planting them into various government agencies. A lot of times they'll be under a diplomatic title. The diplomats are good to be, or fake diplomats, actually CIA officers who are given some sort of title or status as a diplomat. But a lot of times also they use these scholarly type people, and they put them in academia. And that appears to be the case with Halper, because that's who he ran around with, was a bunch of ex-spies who all sort of operated around this London center over the London Center of International Law, and this other place over in Cambridge where all these spooks and spies hang out. Former diplomats, former intellectuals, people like that. So this is how they get cover. But they not only have to give them a cover for their title, so they have a reason for being in these various places in the world and rubbing shoulders with these various people. That's their cover. Either they're academics or they're diplomats or what have you. But they also have to figure out how to pay these people. And the CIA, and of course there's a real good book that I have over on my bookshelf over there called Inside the CIA, and they talk about in there how the CIA makes payment to a lot of the people who are either CIA officers or assets brought in by the CIA to do business, do work for them, and they always have to give them some sort of cover, but they also have to pay them. And the way that they do that is that they pay them through other agencies of the government. They give them some title, like a Halper, and they give them some job, such as writing research papers. It's a fake job. They don't actually write research papers, but that's the title and that's the job classification or what have you that they're given to give them cover. And that appears to be what Stefan Halper was doing. He's obviously an intelligence asset for the CIA. He obviously has worked with the FBI as well. And of course, because in Crossfire Hurricane, Brennan had brought together this multi-agency task force, which brought all these agencies together. So this is why you see this crossbreeding all through Crossfire Hurricane, the investigations into Page and Flynn and Papadopoulos, and you see all these players, and you see all these players that seem to be mixed up. They seem to be intelligence people, both domestic and foreign, but they also seem to be like FBI. And that's because Brennan had this fusion of all these agencies put together, and so they begin to overlap, working with one another. Peter's been stroking us was FBI, but he was he was on Brennan's team in this multi-agency task force. My guess is that Halper was on this task force, as well as Joe Pientka, who was probably running Halper, Forstrock, coordinating with Brennan. So this is why I said a long time ago that when John Durham discovers the multi-agency task force, all of this will begin to make sense, and you will begin to understand why you had this group of people who come from FBI, CIA, State Department, now the military-industrial complex, the Pentagon, Office of Net Assessment. You have foreign governments. You have diplomats involved. You have these intellectuals involved. You have all these various people, oddballs like Misfit, all these people coming into play. And it's because of this multi-agency task force that Brennan put together that sort of fused all these elements together, which makes it so confusing to try to untangle it. That's why you have to understand that this multi-agency task force existed. Otherwise, it could be very confusing trying to figure out how all these agencies crisscrossed with one another and apparently seem to be working on as one. Because typically, as we know, the FBI and CIA don't like to work together. They typically are kind of jealous of one another. They're very territorial, and they don't like to open up to one another very much about what they know or what they do. So this kind of fusion kind of brought all them together. And once you discover this multi-agency task force and you begin digging into that, you can begin to unravel things. So I think that this is where all that's coming from. But nevertheless, this is the case with Stefan Halper, the Fat Man. He's essentially a CIA guy being tasked over to the FBI as part of this multi-agency task force. He's being paid this large amount of money, and we understand that when he's over in London, he's throwing a lot of money around, and he's got this reputation of being a rich guy. Well, Halper is not really a rich guy. He's worked for government for a long time. He's probably pocketed some coin over the years, probably some dirty money over the years. No question about that. But he's not what you think about, rich as in like multi-millionaire, billionaire, anything like that. But he's over there in London throwing money around, and Svetlana Lakova was talking about the fact that he tried to present this image that he was daddy big bucks and had all this money, he'd be buying dinners and doing this. Well, of course, now we know that's because it was money, it was taxpayer money that he was being given to conduct these operations. It wasn't coming out of his pocket. He's not the rich guy writing the check. He's the guy using the government funds. That's our money. So they used our money to run a operation, a coup d'etat on the president, and that is a big problem that I'm sure Mr. Durham is going to not take very well. From what we learned about Durham is there's nothing that makes him angrier than a corrupt FBI or DOJ official. He despises and absolutely hates corrupt bureaucrats, and so you can bet that he is not going to go lightly on these people, and that's why he's digging so hard into Halper. My guess is he's not a big fan. So this is important information, and of course, we've known about this for a long time, but no one's really had a chance to dig into it Certainly Horowitz was not going to do that, nor really could he. But yes, according to Sarah Carter, Durham has interviewed various people within this agency and also within the intelligence community. And she says the word that she's getting from her sources is that a lot of these people that Durham has interviewed are very troubled and concerned by the direction that his investigation is going based on the questions he's asking and the direction his case is moving into. So this means that they're very concerned about the fact that Durham is getting, he's finding the target. He's probably over the target, and he's coming in for the kill. And it's becoming obvious that he's asking the right questions. And this is why I believe for quite a long time that Durham is a serious character, because if you look at like the Mueller investigation, we saw what he was investigating. It certainly wasn't anything to do with Spygate or anything like that. He was just simply involved in a coup. He was an extension of the original coup. Whereas Durham, we know that he and Barr spent all summer over in Italy, over in the UK, Australia, talking to all these people who came into contact with Papadopoulos, because the FBI story is that they started the investigation, Crossfire Hurricane, because Papadopoulos had a conversation with Alexander Down the Hatch Downer in a bar in London and mentioned that the Russians may have had dirt on Hillary Clinton that they might use to against her in the election. So based on that, that's where Durham spent most of the summer, because that was supposedly the origin. But then we found out after, toward the end of the summer, we found out that from Barr, from another interview, that the fact that all that stuff was supposedly all going on from July 31st, 2016 onward. That's when the FBI says that they started the investigation and that they were doing nothing before that. But of course, Barr and Durham, particularly Durham, discovers that there was a lot of things going on before July 31st, 2016, and especially when Mike Rogers, the former head of the NSA, decided to come in and talk to Durham and cooperate with him. And I'm sure once Rogers turned him on to the illegal 702 queries that were happening all the way back in the fall of 2015, that probably got Durham to start focusing on a period much earlier than July 31st. Of course, we know Papadopoulos was first contacted long before that. Flynn was first contacted by Halper in 2014. Carter Page was being contacted by these people in 2015. So all these things were occurring long before July 31st, 2016. And that's what Durham had focused on just after he finished up his trips in Europe all summer long. Now we learn that he is focused a lot on this Office of Net Assessment, which is where Halper came from, and he's requesting a lot of documents that are showing exactly what went on there and who tasked Halper, who was paying Halper, what he was being paid to do. All this information is now in Durham's possession, and it's probably unraveling the whole pre-July 31st, 2016 plot. And because Halper was involved in things going back to 2014. That, along with what he's learned from Rogers, is probably opened Durham up to a lot of very interesting facts, which dispute the IG report and everything the FBI has said, and probably entangles the State Department, the CIA, foreign governments, private intelligence firms, you name it, the whole nine yards. But what's particularly damning and interesting about all of this is when Sarah Carter is talking about the fact that, in fact, Catherine Herridge also reported on this just about a week ago, that Durham is really focused again on this period between January of May to 2017. And why is this period so important? Well, we know because of the interview that Barr did with Martha MacCallum, where he said that they found out that he's learned, along with Durham, that by January of 2017, they knew the dossier was complete garbage. The FBI themselves had put together a spreadsheet. They had identified 104 claims that were made in the dossier. They were able to debunk about 95% of them, and the other 5% they just couldn't even evaluate either way. And they determined that the whole thing was complete garbage. This was known by the FBI and the DOJ in January of 2017, but they continued forward, progressing with the investigation, actually stepping up the investigation. Then they turned that counterintelligence operation into a criminal investigation when they transferred it over to Uncle Bob the Executioner after Rodenstein appointed him as special counsel. And then, to make it even worse, by this time they absolutely knew 100% that Carter Page was not a rogue player, but was in fact a good guy, had been a source for the FBI and the CIA, and they went ahead and got another. This happened under Mueller, after Mueller was appointed. Went ahead and got a third renewal on Carter Page after they knew he was totally clean, after they knew that everything about the Steele dossier was totally dirty. They went ahead, ramped up their investigation, got the Mueller thing going, and they got another renewal on Carter Page. And every bit of that was based on lies, based on false evidence. So this implicates a lot of people. And this is what Barr was saying to Martha McCallum. Everything should have stopped in January 2017. By that time, they knew everything was completely debunked. So anything that they did after January of 2017, and anyone that was involved in any of that is likely going to jail. Those are all hardcore crimes. They could not, for the period around the summer of 2016, they can say, well, the bar is really low for a counterintelligence operation, and Carter Page said some things to Halper, or Papadopoulos said Miss told him this stuff. That stuff can all be mixed around. They can play with that kind of stuff, confuse the issue, muddy the water, whatever you want to call it. But anything that happened after January 17th, there was absolutely no justification for it. It was all illegal. And man, there was a lot of things that went down after January 2017. Giving the appointing a special counsel at a time when they knew everything that they were supposed to be looking into was bullshit. And Mueller had to know it. His entire team had to know it. The DOJ knew it. The FBI knew it. The CIA knew it. The State Department knew it. They all knew it. Everybody knew it. But they went ahead, got the Mueller investigation going, got that third renewal on Carter Page, and continued the coup effort and took the country through 2 years of pure hell, knowing good and well the entire time there was never anything there. That is serious, serious business. And, Durham has got to be furious to be learning all of this. There's going to be hell to pay for dozens of some very high-level people, and we'll just have to keep watching what happens here. But this tells you that Durham is serious about what he's doing. This is not a joke. This is not a Huber investigation. This is not the Mueller witch hunt. This is none of those things. This is a serious dude who doesn't like corrupt bureaucrats. And it looks like he's digging in all the way. My guess is he's going to climb in these guys' asses and stretch out as far as he can. And you wouldn't want to be Comey, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan. You wouldn't want to be any of these guys right now, because I can tell you that the noose is tightening on them, and the evidence that Durham is collecting is probably blowing his mind, I would think. So we'll continue to follow the story, and you, of course, can go over and read the entire story on SaraACarter.com. It's up there now. Well, yesterday began the opening of the impeachment hearings, and although I was working all day, I didn't get a chance to watch the hearings. I spent about 45 minutes just watching clips, video clips of some of the things that went down. And I'll be honest with you, if the rest of this goes like yesterday went, this thing's going to be over very quickly. I mean, very quickly, even quicker than anyone could have imagined. It could be over by this week. So the very first, to watch Trump's lawyer, who I'd never seen before, this Pat Cipollone, against Adam Schiff, it's not even a contest. Adam Schiff looks like he looks like a first-year law student compared to Cipollone, who just absolutely destroyed his argument. It was so impressive that even the anti-Trump Collins, Murkowski, and Romney voted in a pure party line vote on 3 items that were brought up. The 3 items dealt with the fact that that the bug-eyed fool and the penguin Jerry Nadler, leading the Democrat team, wanted all documents on Ukraine. They wanted phone calls on Ukraine, and they wanted documents that would outline or show any efforts by the White House to investigate Uncle Quid Pro Quo Joe. And on all three of these, strictly party line vote, 53-47 was shot down. The first three requests for documents by the demo commies, Schiff and Nadler leading the charge, shot down. And it has a lot to do with the statements made by Cipollone, the arguments made Cipollone versus Schiff. That's how devastating it was, that even Mitt Romney, Willard Romney, Collins, and Murkowski even had to vote with the rest of the Republicans and not give in to this. And what does that tell you? Well, it tells me right off the top that just from the opening arguments that they've already determined that there was simply no crime. There was no impeachable crime and no reason to have documents. And you can assume that the same will be true when they get to witnesses. If this holds together, if this Republican coalition holds together, and Murkowski and Collins and Romney stay on board, this thing will be over very quickly. And you also still have Joe Manchin over there, along with what's his name, Doug Jones. They have to be sweating bullets right now too. Now they voted with the Democrats on these issues, but I'm not so sure that they will on the final vote, whether to put this thing to bed, because neither of those two guys want this thing going on very long. But yeah, so just from what I saw yesterday, this is even worse than I thought. I'm really surprised that the Democrats selected the bug-eyed fool and the penguin to lead their team. I thought they would go for some real hardcore, professional, really good, criminal prosecutor type lawyers. They didn't, but Trump's legal team is so much better than Schiff and Nadler. That's not even close. They shouldn't even be in the same courtroom. That's how bad it is. It looked like men against boys. And of course, this triggered various people like the rotten Reverend Clinton, and of course, Mr. Potato Head John Brennan, all triggered badly after watching Trump's team just destroy the Democrats' opening arguments. It wasn't even, again, I don't know if this thing will. I honestly believe now, after watching what I saw yesterday, or today, it'll be yesterday when you see this video, I actually believe that this thing may be over very, very quickly, because the Cipollone and really Jay Sekulow just destroyed the Democrats' case. I don't know where you go from here. I mean, because if the opening arguments, they destroyed the Democrats in the opening arguments, and the documents, the 3 votes they took for documents got blown up, and that ain't going to happen. Well, there goes the documents. All that really leaves is witnesses. And we're getting signs now that obviously in the previous days, there's obviously been negotiations and talks about witnesses, and apparently the Republicans have said, well, you want witnesses, we're going to bring in absolutely Hunter Biden, number one. Hunter Biden, he's coming in. We're going to subpoena him. We're going to subpoena the whistleblower. And apparently it was 2 or 3 people that the Republicans say, hey, I've got the votes to bring in these people. You want witnesses? I got the votes to get these guys. So who do you want? And apparently the thought of having Hunter Biden or the whistleblower or Chalupa brought into these hearings scared Nadler enough to where he's basically even said it. He was on, let's see, it's in my notes. Nadler was on... Yeah, Nadler was on Deface the Nation. He was on Deface the Nation, and Nadler said that having no impeachment witnesses would be preferable to having Hunter Biden testify. The demo commies have decided over the last few days of their negotiations that if in fact Hunter Biden is brought in to testify, they would rather not have any witnesses than have that happen, because they know what an absolutely horrible witness he would be. I mean, this guy's dumb, and he's worse than his dad. You're talking about making gaffes. Hunter Biden is probably worse than his dad at gaffes, and he's really dumb. He's not a guy that you want sitting there getting questioned by some really good attorneys. He would be devastating to the Democrats' case, and they don't want him anywhere near there. So they'd be willing to give up all their witnesses if, in fact, it means that they're going to have to bring in Hunter Biden. So if they got their butts kicked in the opening argument, bad enough that Murkowski, Collins, and Mitwitt sided with Republicans, if they got their butts kicked so bad that none of those three Republicans even voted to allow them to get documents that they wanted, then you can only imagine that what's going to happen with the witness vote. They're probably going to go the same way. This whole thing could go down in a party line vote and a dismissal, 47 to 53, and a dismissal before the weekend. This thing may not even make it to the weekend. That's how bad this case is. And that means it will go down in history as the biggest debacle in political history by a sitting House Speaker and a political party. The fact that Trump will be in the history books as having been impeached, there will be a great big asterisk there right below it describing that it was connected to the biggest debacle in political history. That's what this will be remembered as in history for many, many years to come. Absolutely incredible to be witnessing what we're seeing here. I honestly thought that it wouldn't be that bad. I mean, I knew it was going to be pretty bad. I mean, I knew they didn't have a case, but I didn't think that the Dems would get blown out that bad. It was really ugly from the videos that I saw. So there you go. But we also have the bug-eyed fool, the pencil neck geek, Adam Schiff, saying that he gave the Republicans equal time in his House hearings. This guy's a pathological liar. I mean, but even that nutcase Mazie Hirono is on MSNBC, and she said, the fact is that the discovery should have been done in the House. So even Mazie Hirono blaming Schiff and Nadler and the folks, the demo commies in the House, for not taking care of business in the House where they had control. And they could have called these witnesses and could have done these things. Wanting the Senate to do it, knowing good and well that the Republicans control the Senate and that McConnell wasn't going to play the game, she is basically saying that Schiff and Nadler and Pelosi dropped the ball by not doing the proper discovery in the House, believing that they were somehow going to have, that McConnell was going to work with them on this. They clearly made a huge mistake, and even that idiot Mazie Hirono can see it. It's very, very obvious. Very obvious. If you're a Democrat, you got to be really bummed out right now. Like I said, the Rotten Reverend Clinton not only commented trying to rip McConnell as covering up, the Rotten Reverend Clinton covering up after she destroys and bleach bits her entire server, removes SIM cards and destroys devices with hammers, and she's talking about a cover-up. But she also went after Bernie. Yes, that's right, she went after Bernie. She says, the Rotten Reverend Clinton asked about Bernie, says, nobody likes him. Nobody wants to work with him. And she said, he got nothing done after all those years in Congress, that he's just a career politician. She was asked if she would vote for him if he wins a nomination, and she says, I'm not going to go there yet. We're still in a vigorous primary season. Now, she knows that's bullshit. She knows it's a two-man race right now, and it's quid pro quo Joe against commie Bernie. She knows that. But she also knows one other thing, that she's working on a plan to get herself stuck into the mix, probably through a brokered convention, which she and her friends at the DNC will likely try to orchestrate. That's what's really going on with the Rotten Reverend Clinton. But it's hilarious for her to talk about McConnell as being a cover-up when she's covered up crimes her entire career, and big ones. And to say that nobody likes him, well, nobody really likes her very much either. I bet you a lot more people like Bernie than like Clinton. I remember in 2016 campaign, Bernie was drawing 10,000, sometimes 15, 20. He was drawing crowds kind of like Trump was drawing. But the Rotten Reverend Clinton couldn't fill a phone booth. Apparently more people like Bernie than like her. She says nobody wants to work with him. Well, hey, guess what? Nobody wants to work with the Rotten Reverend Clinton either. Because most people that work with the Rotten Reverend Clinton either end up dead or in jail. Got nothing done after all those years in Congress. Well, I guess she can say that she got something done. She turned Benghazi, she turned Libya into a hellhole, where they now have modern-day slavery, selling slaves in Libya these days. And I guess she got something done there. She also planned, organized, and directed a coup against the current president. So yeah, she got some things done, I guess. Let's see. Then she goes off and says, and it's not just Bernie, it's his supporters and his Bernie bros. The very same mistake that she made in 2016, calling Trump's people deplorables, she has now just made. Now, she did it to Bernie in 2016. She got caught cheating Bernie in 2016. And that's why Bernie supporters did not come out and vote for her. One of many reasons that she lost. And now here she is going after Bernie supporters again. Now, I can go after Bernie supporters because, I'm not running against Bernie. And I'm not counting on Bernie supporters to vote for Trump. So, but politically speaking, this is, again, a very stupid thing to do on her part. But she's not a very good politician. She doesn't have very good political instincts, you might say. She essentially just called Bernie supporters deplorables, is what she just did, essentially. So there you go. The Rotten Reverend Clinton continues to be a horrible politician, and she has definitely got a trick up her sleeve. You can just smell it in the air. The Rotten Reverend Clinton, the demonic buzzard, is circling overhead, just waiting for Quid Pro Quo Joe to be roadkill. Kind of funny today, yesterday I saw a funny little video clip. Of course, we had Trump is over in Davos, and of course, he is like a boss over there in Davos. It's great to watch him with all those European socialists, just making them look like fools. And like I said, he's like a boss. He just goes over there and takes over. He just makes everyone else look small and insignificant. He just dominates when he goes over to Europe. He just looks dominant. It's hilarious. But of course, Jim Acosta from the Commie News Network is over there covering the event. And as Ivanka was walking with some of her staffers to go to give a speech, Acosta was trailing right next to her and asking her questions about Trump's impeachment and all this kind of stuff. It was hilarious. She just literally completely ignored him like he wasn't even there. Didn't even acknowledge him. She just like, he's right here, and she just looks right past him, right through him, like he's not even there. He's asking questions, and she just totally blows him off. Absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. There was not even an expression on her face. It was just like he wasn't even there. He's there, he's got the microphone in her face, he's asking a question, and she just like completely blows him off. It was hilarious. She's about a foot taller than he is, by the way. Ivanka could probably kick Acosta's ass, would be my guess. Yes, Ratcliffe probably put it best on the little snippet that I saw of him about the way those hearings went yesterday, where he said it was like killing a fly with a sledgehammer. Killing a fly with a sledgehammer. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. It was ugly. Of course, we have Project Veritas. As I said about a week and a half ago when we saw the first Veritas video, I said, look out, there'll definitely be more coming. He's probably got 3, 4, 5 of these people on video. And, of course, we get the second one yesterday. This guy's just as nutty, if not nuttier, than the first, saying all the same type of things, ready for a revolution, wants to guillotine the rich, wants to put Republicans and conservatives and Trump supporters into concentration camps. He praising gulags, praising the Soviet Union, says he will straight up get armed. This guy's name is Martin Weisgerber. Now, this guy's a nut. He obviously hasn't looked at the map with all that red across the country. 78% of the counties voted for Trump, and that happens to be the counties where people already have guns and already have been trained. Yeah, so I'll get a gun and go get trained on it. Good luck, buddy. You're way behind the curve. You won't last a day. You won't last a day. These people are nuts. They're absolutely nuts. And of course, just as I mentioned yesterday, I said, Bernie has no backbone whatsoever, and he disses his own supporters. I just literally went through this whole thing a day or two ago. And here again, there's a Bernie supporter writes an op-ed in the Iowa Register, and it's targeting Biden, saying that Biden is corrupt. And Bernie is asked about it, and he comes out and says, I want to apologize. That's not my position. I don't think Joe Biden is corrupt. So here's Bernie supporters, mad as hell, know that Biden's corrupt. Everybody knows that Biden's corrupt. And here's Bernie, again, going against an op-ed by someone who supports him and all his supporters, saying, no, Joe Biden's not corrupt. Man, this guy has no backbone. He's just a mess. He is just a mess. Of course, we have Joe Biden wanting detention camps for says he will end all detention for illegal border crossings, and he'll give him an ankle bracelet. This guy is Looney Tunes, my friends. Looney Tunes. Out of time. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Bye.